When everybody was getting afraid when COVID first made its entree, and everyone starts pulling out of the market, but you're going heavy into it. Why weren't you afraid? Because you had this experience to bank on from 2015, and you knew you could survive, and you knew shit that was going to come at you was something you could figure out, or
called the lenders, called our private money. We called everybody that had money in our business and said, will you need your money back? Do you need your money back? What, you know what I mean? And they just play at a different level. They're just, they got $2 million liquid that they letting you borrow. And you call them and ask them, hey, are you going to need this money back? And they go, what? What do you mean? Why are you trying to pay me off? You're like, bro, the world's ending over here.
right?
They're like, yeah, I wouldn't have gave you money I needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you realize we're not on the same, like that's a small person in actual true wealth. That's 2 million sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people, but and it's a lot of money to them, but they don't need it. That's their disposable income that they handed you to get a return on. They don't want it back. They don't need it back. They don't roll in that same manner. Once you've made that money, once you've got $10 million liquid that you can loan out to people, right? That you can just hand over and say, hey, pay me every month. If it goes bad, I'll take the asset back and I'll work with that tenant. You're like, okay, these people are on a different level. So everybody, none of them wanted their money back. And since none of them wanted their money back, even though at that time it made, if you read anybody's post, they were taking time out. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were taking time off. They're going to go back and reflect with their friends and family and do all these sorts of things. And the only thing I was like, well, if they're not going to try to do anything, then nobody's going to be in the marketplace. So we'll be the only ones in the marketplace. And since there's all this noise about the world ending, that means the sellers are also going to think the world's ending. So they're going to be selling at a discount. It just made sense in my mind that if I had money to deploy and the opportunity was going to be there, to go take advantage of the opportunity, because if you rent it out in the big scheme of things, the backstop is the tenant. It's the fact that we're willing to rent it out. There's no other backstop. It's rent or owner finance, depending on which one. And so we just went heavy into it, and the market squeezed down in a way that when COVID hit, people didn't want to sell. So getting inventory was harder. So since nobody wanted to sell, but everybody wanted to buy, and then interest rates went to like 2%.
Yeah.
So it was all of a sudden like gangbusters, and then inflation, everything else just lifted. I mean, I can't tell you how much money we made on the stuff that we own. We refinanced a property when that we couldn't sell for 60 grand, that appraised for 150. We walked away with a $74,000 check during COVID on that refinance, like on a refinance. And if we'd have sold it the day that when we were flipping houses, we'd have made 10 grand.
Yeah.
And at the time when we couldn't sell it, it felt bad. Now that a tenant's in there and has been in there for 7 years, it's like that tenant's paid nonstop. Now they're paying $1,500 a month. They started out at $800 a month. They're paying $1,500 a month. They're not struggling. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the method. This is how wealth is built. This is how to press. Right now, when I see people waiting for the crash, I've read these posts since 2015. If there's a crash, there's a crash. That's the new marketplace. Everything's at a discount, but it doesn't do anything to the stuff you already bought.
Right.
Stuff you already bought, you have debt on. If it's a big commercial deal and it's revisited, you might have to pay down some of that debt if it won't appraise. But, if you're not over leveraged, you don't ever have to worry about that. It's like inflation wiped out our debt, essentially made it basically valueless compared to what it's worth. If markets have appreciated 20% a year for 2 years, that's 40% extra value on the real estate you already owned. You're telling me that if that got erased, that 2 years ago economy wasn't good enough for you? That's what you're saying. Like 2 years ago, you weren't making money. How does that work? That's 2019, 2020.
Right.
That's when it was gangbusters. That's pre-COVID.
Yeah.
If it goes back to that, you're telling me you're busted? How does that work?